Okay, well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 2020 Amirah Annual Report. I'm Greg Smith. I'm the board chair for Amirah, and I'm with Stephanie Clark, our Chief Executive Officer. And we thought we'd come to you in this format instead of writing out our thoughts. But 2020 was a very interesting year, not just for us, but for everybody. And Stephanie, why don't we just step back to last March and talk about what we were thinking when all the world was starting to shut down.
Yeah, I think last March was a scary time, and I remember early on when everything was beginning to close up. You and I chatted on the phone, and I thought you were about to have a heart attack, and maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, what I couldn't believe was that the governor could actually shut everything down. But I don't think I was alone. But yes, once we got past that, we had to go into kind of a survival mode, or at least a perceived survival mode.
Yeah, and and for me, I go to the worst possible scenario possible. That's where my brain goes instinctively. So I went to, I'm going to have to fire all these amazing people. We're going to have to move all of these women out of this home. And we're shutting up everything, and Amirah's done. And that's where my brain went. And so then I worked backwards from that and was like, okay, how do we prevent that from happening? And so we just went to really a big contingency plans again and again. Like if we reach this marker in our donations, we know this has to happen. And if this happens, then we know this has to happen. And we had all these various contingency plans on how to just try to keep Amirah afloat in this time. And I think a lot of nonprofits did that as well too. Just merely went to survival mode for the first few months of the pandemic.
Yeah, and I remember those discussions for sure. We dropped the budget right away, some 20%, thinking
Yeah.
that we weren't going to get it. We applied for the PPP, which was very helpful, and we did have those contingency tiers. And amazingly, we never really had to worry about those.
Yeah. So
So
that was I mean, first we should just say thank you to the community of Amira. Like that's absolutely incredible that we never had to worry about those contingency plans because of of their generosity.
yeah, and I look back at that time, and there was so much uncertainty facing everybody, but our supporters, even in spite of all that, they never missed a beat. Like we did not miss a beat the entire year. So yes, I would say that also as well on behalf of the board. Thank you for your steadfastness and perseverance, even when times looked a little bit uncertain back in March and April and May. We never missed a beat.
Mm.
So fast forward, we ended the year, and actually, amazing things happened. God was incredibly faithful to Amirah, and maybe you can recount some of the things that actually happened in 2020.
Yeah. So one, we were the residential facility in the North Shore remained open, and we were able to continue to bring women into the home in the midst of the pandemic safely. We had a woman graduate in the midst of the pandemic, which was just amazing to see that she felt safe and secure enough in how far she had come into her journey to move out on her own while the world was shut down. But that shows the depth of work she did, which is
Mm.
incredible. We opened up a community resource center in Lynn, which was the 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 idea from a survivor leader on staff. So just this whole vision from survivors to help survivors and support them. And this came about because of the pandemic and us realizing how much more we could do to support women who were still out there or receiving services from somebody else in the community that we could walk alongside them in support of them.
Mm.
We navigated our the correctional facilities groups, shut down for a period of time and then reopened safely with PPE gear um, towards the end of the year. But we navigated that, and our survivor leader also hosted groups online, which was a whole new thing to figure out. We helped women navigate what telehealth was like and all those things that we all had to do, working with them to be able to do those steps as well too. And then I think one of the most awesome things that happened was we hired one of our graduates, Jessie, to be our intake specialist, and she's just it's awesome to watch her flourish in her role, walk along women that want to come into this program, talk with them, and get them exposed to what it's like to be somebody that goes through something so rigorous,
Hmm.
and is now living life, thriving and taking hold of her own life again.
Yeah, the one thing too that probably was the biggest surprise to me, if you remember back in last March or April, we were thinking, who knows when we're going to be able to open up our Connecticut office, I mean, home, and we'd had all the plans, everything was all set, we had the house was going to be ready. We wanted to open up much sooner than we're going to, but we, at the time, I don't think we ever dreamed that we would be able to open that house up in March of 2021, like we've been able to do. And so again, thank you to our supporters for particularly down in Connecticut, of being steadfast and faithful alongside of us so that we could open the house the early part of 2021.
Yeah.
So Stephanie, what does 2021 look like the rest of the year?
Hopefully not like what 2020 looks like.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's we're looking to make sure that Amira remains strong and is healthy. I think that's really the word that we are looking for. Like, one, that we're all physically healthy, that we get through this pandemic, through that time, but that this organization and what we're doing is so strong in what we're doing with the women that we get to serve, but also that we're continuing to push the movement forward. Um, so a great thing that we launched in 2021 is our online webinar series, which is a survivor-led conversation, survivor with survivor, to talk about various things within the movement. I'm so grateful for these conversations because we're giving space to survivor leaders that are all throughout America, and just asking them, hey, what do you want to talk about? Because we'd love to hear it. And so if you haven't watched them, they're online already, and every month we have a new one coming up. So they're wonderful. I love them. I love looking forward to them. Our education program is going to new heights in 2021. We're working with hospitals and law enforcement partners and partners all actually throughout the city of Lynn, where our community resource center is, training them on trauma informed approaches from survivor perspective, training them on power dynamics, and it's just, we're really taking our trainings to a whole nother level, and I'm really proud of the work that's being done there. And then continuing to make our programs, I mean, like last year I felt like so much of what the women had to do was just this constant pivot because the world was shut down and all of that. But now we are still in the pandemic and not in the pandemic, and we're in that phase where it's just awkward and weird. And so making sure that the women that are doing their programs, that they have every resource, whether it's virtual or in person, safely, and that they are progressing as well as they can. And so just making sure that the women feel confident in the work that they're doing. That's
Mm.
where we're headed this year.
Sounds like it's going to be a great year, exciting year,
Yeah,
especially as we start to fill out the Connecticut home.
absolutely.
Well, again, thank you to all of our supporters on behalf of the board. We couldn't do this ministry without you. We appreciate your support, your steadfastness, and your commitment to our organization, and more importantly, to our women. Well,
Thank you
Stephanie,
so
thank
much.
you. All right.